my reactor, so I'm back with the storm, Kindred, chapter 11. The time passed slowly, uneventfully, as I waited for the birth of the child I hoped would be Hayward. I went on helping Rufus and his mother. I kept a journal in shorthand. What the devil are these chicken marks? Rufus asked me when he looked over my shoulder one day. It was such a relief to be able to say what I felt, even in writing, without worrying that I might get myself or someone else into trouble. One of my secret secretary classes had finally came in handy. I tried husking corn and blistering my slow, clumsy hands while experienced field hands sped through the work effortlessly, enjoying themselves. There was no reason for me to join them, but they seemed to be making a party of the husking. Rufus gave them a little whiskey to help them along, and I needed a party, needed anything that would relieve my boredom, take my mind off myself. It was a party, all right, a wild, rough kind of party that nobody modified because the master's woman, Alice and I, were there. People working near me around the small mountains of corn laughed at my blisterings and told me I was being initiated. A jug went around and I tasted, choked, and drew more laughter. Surprisingly, companionably laughter. A man with huge muscles told me it was too bad I was already spoken for, and that earned me hostile looks from 3 women. After the work, there were great quantities of food: chicken, pork, vegetables, cornbread, fruit. Better food than the herring and cornmeal field hands usually so much of. Rufus came out to play hero for providing such a good meal, and the people gave him the praise he wanted. Then they made gross jokes about him behind his back. Strangely, they seemed to like him, hold him in contempt, and fear him all at the same time. This confused me because I felt just about the same mixture of emotions for him myself. I had thought my feelings were complicated because he and I had such a strange relationship. But then, slavery of any kind fosters strange relationships. Only the overseer drew simple, unconflicting emotions of hatred and fear when he appeared briefly. But then, it was a part of the overseer's job to be hated and feared while the master kept his hands clean. Young people began disappearing in Paris after a while, and some of the older ones stopped their eating or drinking or singing or talking long enough to give them looks of disapproval, or more understanding, wistful looks. I thought about Kevin and missed him, and I knew I wasn't going to sleep well that night. At Christmas, there was another party, dancing, singing, 3 marriages. Daddy used to make them wait until corn shucking or Christmas to marry, Rufus told me. They like parties when they married, and he made a few parties do. Anything to pinch a few pennies, I said tactlessly. He glanced at me. You better be glad he didn't waste money. You're the one who gets upset when some quick money has to be raised. My mind had caught up with my mouth by then, and I kept quiet. He hadn't sold me, and he hadn't sold anyone else. The harvest has been good, and the creditor's patient. Found anybody you want to jump the broom with? He asked me. I looked at him startled and saw that he wasn't serious. He was smiling and watching the slaves do a bow and parting the change and dance to the music of bango. What would you do if I had found someone, I asked. Sell him, he said. His smile was still in place, but there was no longer any humor in it. I noticed now that he was watching a big, muscular man who had tried to get me to dance. The same man who had spoken to me at the corn husking. I would have to ask Sarah to tell him not to speak to me again. He didn't mean anything, but that wouldn't save him if Rufus got angry. One husband is enough for me, I said. Kevin, of course, Kevin. He's a long way off. There was something in his tone that shouldn't have been there. I turned to face him. Don't talk stupid. He jumped and looked around quickly to see whether anyone had heard. You watch your mouth, he said. Watch yours. He stalked away angrily. We've been working together too much lately, especially now that Alice was so advanced in her pregnancy. I was grateful when Alice herself created another job for me, a job that got me away from him regularly. Sometimes during the week-long Christmas holiday, Alice persuaded him to let me teach their son Joe to read and write. It was my Christmas present, she told me. He asked me what I wanted, and I told him I want my son not to be ignorant. You know, I had to fight with him all week to get him to say yes. But he had said it finally, and the boy came to me every day to learn to draw big clumsy letters on the slate Rufus brought him, and read simple words and rhymes from the book Rufus himself had used. But unlike Rufus, Joe wasn't bored with what he was learning. He fastened onto the lessons as though they were puzzles arranged for his entertainment. Puzzle he loved solving. He could get so intense, throw screaming, kicking tantrums when something seemed to be eluding him, but not all that much eluded him. You got a damn bright little kid there, I told Rufus. You ought to be too proud. Rufus looked surprised, as though it had never occurred to him that there might be anything special about the undersized, runny-nosed child. He had spent his life watching his father ignore, even sell the children he had with black women. Apparently, it had never occurred to Rufus to break that tradition until now. Now he began to take an interest in his son. Perhaps he was only curious at first, but the boy captured him. I coached them together once in the library. The boy sitting on one of Rufus' knees and studying a map that Rufus had just brought home. The map was spread on Rufus' desk. Is this our river? The boy was asking. No, that's the Miles River, northeast of here. This map doesn't show our river. Why not? It's too small. What is? The boy peers up at him. Our river or this map? Both, I suspect. Let's draw it in then. Where does it go? Rufus hesitated. Just about here. But we don't have to draw it in. Why? Don't you want the map to be right? I made a noise and Rufus looked up at me. I thought he looked almost ashamed for a moment. He put the boy down quickly and shooed him away. Nothing but questions, Rufus complained to me. Enjoy it, Ruth. At least he's not out selling fires to the stables or trying to drown himself. He couldn't quite keep from laughing, Alice said. Something like that. He frowned a little. She wanted me to be free. She wanted me to free him. I nodded. Alice had already told me she meant to ask for the boy's freedom. You put her up to it, I guess. I stared at him. Ruth, if there is a woman on this place who makes up her own mind, it's Alice. I didn't put her up to a thing. Well, now she got something else to make up her mind about. What? Nothing to you. I just mean to make her earn what she wants for a change, he said. I couldn't get any more out of him than that. Eventually, though, Alice told me what he wanted. He wants me to like him, she said with heavy contempt, or maybe even love him. I think he wants me to be more like you. I guarantee you he doesn't. She closed her eyes. I don't care what he wants. If I thought it would make him free my children, I'd try to do it. But he lies, and he won't put it down on no paper. He likes Joe, I said. He ought to. Joe looks like a slighter, darker version of him at that age. Anyway, he might decide on his own to free the boy. And this one, she patted her stomach, and the others, he'll make sure there's others. I don't know. I'll push him whenever I can. I should have took Joe and tried to run before I got pregnant again. You still thinking about running? Wouldn't you be if you didn't have any other way to get free? I nodded. I don't mean to spend my life here watching my children grow up as slaves and maybe get sold. He wouldn't. You don't know what he would do. He don't treat you the way he treats me. When I'm strong again, after I had this baby, I'm going. With the baby, you don't think I'm going to leave it here, do you? But I don't see how you can make it. I know more now than I did when Isaac and me left. I can make it. I drew a deep breath. When the time comes, if I can help you, I will. Give me a bottle of that, she said. Madison, I have the baby to keep quiet. Old mama won't let me near her, but she likes you, get it. All right. I didn't like it. Didn't like the idea of her trying to run with a baby and a small child. Didn't like the idea of her trying to run at all. But she was right. In her place, I would have tried. I would have tried sooner and gotten killed sooner, but I would have done it alone. You think about that just a while longer, I said. You'll get the medicine and anything else I can supply, but you think. I already thought. Not enough. I shouldn't say this, but think what's going to happen if the dogs catch Joe or if they pull you down and get the baby. So I'll be back with chapter 12. Please like, comment, subscribe, and thank y'all for listening.